Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing that I remember vividly from Mr. Clark's previous testimony at the mighty Ogo was just how adamant, to the point of literally raising his voice, turning red in color in face, how adamant he was that from start to finish, he had no influence whatsoever in the acquisition of the condominium on Billionaires Row. Now, I'm going to be speaking on behalf of Ms. Kuzi and Mr. Barrett. I believe Ms. Block was also in attendance, and myself. All four of us didn't believe one word that he was saying. This was well before we received any evidence from Politico, and all of us accused him of lying, of which he took great offense to. But here we are, some several months removed, and the political instincts of the Conservative members here in Ogo were validated, 100% validated, that notwithstanding that this condominium, the old condominium on Park Avenue, was quite suitable for over 20 council generals, 2 months within the mandate of Tom Clark, which just happens to coincide with records that this committee has received, happens to coincide with a cozy meeting that Tom Clark had with Justin Trudeau in Manhattan, where both of them were boasting and smiling and laughing in the back of a limousine, driving down one of the major thoroughfares of Manhattan. Within 2 months, we learn that Tom Clark now is a confirmed liar. That he has, I know, Mr. Souza, you find that rather remarkable for me now saying that, but it's interesting that when this story broke, which I believe was yesterday from Politico, there was such an eerie silence from the Liberal government. Nothing by way of any sort of clarifying statement from the PMO, no clarifying statement from Justin Trudeau, nothing from Tom Clark, but just eerie silence, as if it was a child getting caught with his hand in the cookie jar. That's what I equate this to. Because now we know within 2 months of Tom Clark's arrival in New York, he notifies Global Affairs, and we don't know how that notification took place, whether it was a phone call, whether it was an email, whether it was relayed via Justin Trudeau, who knows? We'll eventually find all of that out, but it certainly requires a deeper examination. That it was not suitable, his words, not suitable for hosting or for living, and required immediate replacement. Immediate. Because obviously a multi-decade-old condominium didn't suit the particular lavish lifestyle of Tom Clark. And to feed that hubris element of Tom Clark, whose ego is as large as all the oceans combined. Thank you. Thank you for that, Mr. Souza. I'll take that as a compliment. Wanted to have,
Mr. Brock
wanted to live like a king, wanted to live like a king. And interestingly, how this story broke to Canadians is through the American media, because American media caught up with the acquisition, this purchase on Billionaires Row, and it was listed in the name of His Majesty the King. That sparked interest. That sparked curiosity. And it was only then that Global Affairs confirmed, no, it's not King Charles who is looking for an alternate residence or a secondary or tertiary residence. No, it's for the Consul General. So then the story started to break, and then we started to learn about all these impressive amenities. The Venetian marble, the full suite of the Gaggenau appliances. I did some research on Gaggenau. Gaggenau is the most expensive appliance manufacturer in the world. Um, Kings, I'm sure, have Gaggenau appliances. Shaws and Sheiks have Gaggenau appliances. The coffee maker alone, Mr. Chair, $5,000. And if memory serves me correct, the refrigerator alone, $19,000. 3 bedrooms, because it's important that Tom Clark and his wife have access to extra bedrooms. You never know when Justin wants to come down to Manhattan, and perhaps they can give him an extra room to sleep in. But in addition to that, we have all the other amenities available to occupants of Billionaires Row. We got the golf simulator. We got the full-length swimming lanes. We've got the paddle courts. And yes, Tom Clark is living the life of luxury and is living the life of a king. And we had news articles basically profiling that. So it really concerns me as a lawyer and a former participant in the justice system, in terms of when people come to committees, and although, and I always say this, depending on the nature of the issue and the witness, although there is no formal requirement to swear or to affirm to tell the truth, by its very nature, committee is set up that individuals are expected to tell the truth. And when they don't tell the truth, and it's confirmed that witnesses don't tell the truth, there is a process in Parliament that these individuals can receive their just consequences. Case in point, Christian Firth. All members of this committee remember Christian Firth, who ultimately had to face the wrath of appearing at the bar of the House of Commons to answer to his deliberate lies. So I take lying at committee very, very seriously. But it wasn't just Tom Clark, although the motion is centered around Tom Clark. This is one of the questions I posed to the minister today. We've heard from a litany of government officials who, in essence, confirmed 100% the lie that Tom Clark shared with this committee during his last appearance, that he had no involvement. If it was said once, it must have been said 100 times repeatedly over the course of several months since we started this study last late spring, early summer. Now, we're not asking that those officials be recalled, although I think there are grounds, political grounds to do that. This particular motion is very centered squarely on Tom Clark. And I know that Mr. Jawari, in his statement at the outset, claims that the report, this is a useless exercise. The report is a fait accompli. There's going to be no evidence of any political connection whatsoever. Well, with all due respect to Mr. Jawari, the fact that I'm now referencing everything that I have in relation to the Politico story and in relation to the previous testimony.
Excuse me, Mr. Jawari.
And I'd like to say that the conclusion that MP Larry Block drew from my comments is not appropriate. Thank you.
Continue, Mr. Brock.
So what we're trying to do ultimately, and I would expect that every parliamentarian in this House of Commons would want to get to the truth. The fact that Mr. Jawari has already telegraphed his opposition to this motion and I wouldn't be surprised because they all follow suit, of course. Ms. Atwin, Mr. Kuzmerchuk, Mr. Souza will all do the same because they don't believe in accountability, Mr. Chair. They don't believe in transparency. And wherever there's been a hint of a scandal or a cover-up, you know the good Liberal members of the Ogo bench will carry the water of Justin Trudeau because they don't want to make this political. And ultimately, we may draw the connection. We may join the dots and show a direct political
Point of order, Mr.
influence
Chair.
with the acquisition
Excuse me,
of this condominium.
Excuse me, Mr. Brock, Mr. Jory.
I gladly carry Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's water any day rather than carrying Mr. Pierre Poilievre's
I will decide
water that you
point of
guys are
orders.
doing. The
Mr.
divisiveness.
Jory, that's not a point of order. Mr. Brock, continue.
Well, Mr. Kuzmerchuk calls it a leaky bucket, so it probably is leaky because, you know, the amount of buckets that those members have had to carry for Justin Trudeau over 9 years must be rather enormous.
Point of order.
Okay, yeah, well, we'll see what happens in the
Someone?
next election.
I think
Mr.
it's
Gilroy.
standing order 18.
Okay,
is it?
colleagues, please. Mr. Jory, your
Yeah.
colleague has a point of
He's fair.
or has the floor, not yourself.
Mr. Chair, if I'm not mistaken,
Ms.
standing order
Matlin?
18 is to not insult other members as well or speak disparagingly. So I'm taking it a
Okay,
little personal
all
now.
of
Some
you,
of the things that
all of you.
I don't think I've insulted you personally at all, Mr. Brock.
Mr. Brock, Ms. Atwood. Mr. Brock, continue, and we just
How
ask if you
sensitive,
people have
how sensitive. the
valid
Liberal
point of
members are
orders,
today.
please bring
Point of
them
order.
up.
Again, he continues to insult us on a personal level, and it's unacceptable, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Mr. Brock, continue.
Yeah. So to make a fine point on my last point that I wish to make, Mr. Chair, is that every member, regardless of political stripe, should be standing for the truth, should be standing for accountability and transparency. And to my colleague, Ms. Kuzi's point, which was an excellent point, the tradition at this particular committee and all the other committees I have been privileged to speaking to and participate in, wherever there is a suspicion, let alone some conclusive evidence of misleading committee or contradictory evidence, it is always incumbent upon a committee to seek out clarification. Maybe Mr. Clark has an honest, reasonable explanation for this story. But let's give him that chance. Let's give him that chance at committee where his explanation can be tested in cross-examination. Thank you, Mr. Chair.